Hey there, I'm the MadCatster. Am I glad to see you here? Well, Austin McBroom and Aneson Gib had a rematch, and you won't believe how this one ended. So buckle up and let's go. Hey there, you guys. I'm here with Sybil the Enforcer, and Sybil says, please like and subscribe. This week's been a little tough for me because, as some of you may know, my blind cat, Eugenie, was not doing so great. And unfortunately, this past Monday, she went off to kitty heaven. So if you stay tuned at the end of the video, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So it's been kind of a tough week. But anyways, let's talk about Austin McBroom and his disastrous rematch with Aneson Gib. So Austin McBroom and Aneson Gib, many of you may remember, last September, they got together for their first matchup during Social Gloves 2, which was Austin McBroom's failure of a second boxing event. And we all know the story with the first one, where he didn't pay the fighters and the lawsuits came forward. Well, he set up Social Gloves 2, and not learning anything from the first one, didn't have any professional management or promotion. And of course, the ticket sales, once again, were really crappy. And I had talked about that leading up to the event. Well, on the night of the event, we saw that there was like nobody there, and other people who were there reported that as well. So they got together, they had their matchup. Austin McBroom, who came out as Mr. Tough Guy and was talking smack, and had delayed it a couple of times. He had alleged that, Aneson Gib hadn't passed his health checks, so he couldn't fight in California, and they had to wait for that, and that's why it was delayed. And Aneson Gib pushed back a little bit and said that it was not his fault. And then Austin and Catherine announced that they were postponing their wedding because the rescheduled fight was going to be the same day as their wedding. Well, they were in control of both events, so we know that that was a cover story to get out of having to hold this mega wedding that they were going to sell tickets to and have all kinds of promotion. And I talked about there was a lawsuit related to that. Well, after the fight, Austin McBroom got a TKO and Gib won. And the day after the fight, Austin McBroom, appearing to be a good sport, made a video where he congratulated Gib, and he ate a little humble pie and put his tail between his legs. And I thought, wow, Austin McBroom's actually being a decent guy for once. Well, fast forward almost 6 months, and shortly before this matchup was announced, Austin McBroom came out and said, oh no, the reason why I lost back in September wasn't because Gib was the better fighter. It's because I was diagnosed with COVID. And he went on to tell us in a mockumentary. I mean, he called it a documentary. I call it a mockumentary. But he went on to say that, he didn't feel good the day of the fight. And it came out that he had gotten an IV, which apparently is not legal to do in boxing. And went out and fought Gib anyways, and as we know, he lost. Says he was rushed to the hospital and he was diagnosed with COVID at the hospital.
So leading up to the day of the fight, I was a little under the weather, but nothing that could have affected my performance. The morning of the fight, my energy was low. I wasn't feeling like myself. Just before we jumped on the sprinter, I don't know what it was, but something overcame my body, and that's when I started feeling down again. As we pulled up to the stadium, we hit a stop because there was so much traffic of everybody trying to get to the stadium, and that's when I started feeling like claustrophobic. I felt like I was gonna pass out. Catherine and my team were literally yelling at the driver to just let me out to get some fresh air. And after the fight, I went to the hospital, and sure enough, I was tested positive with COVID.
And he was trying to make it look like he was a martyr for, even though I'm sick, I push forward for you guys, his viewers. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but at the same time, you're also spreading COVID to everybody you're coming into contact with. Gib, your family, your trainers, everybody who comes into contact with you. So it wasn't a good thing. But I personally don't think that he had COVID, because in that video he made the day after, he looked perfectly fine to me.
And I'm sure you all can probably tell I just woke up. It's currently 9:41 in the morning, and I'm here to be as real and as raw as I can be. Last night was so much fun. It really was. I can honestly say that I had the time of my life. I really did.
He didn't seem to be sick at all, and a lot of people agreed with me that just seemed kind of fishy, and it was almost like he was looking for an excuse to go back on him saying he was not going to box again. Because if you remember back in September after that fight, he said, Catherine doesn't really want me to fight, so I'm going to stop fighting and we're going to focus on our videos and our family. Well, we saw how long that lasted, right? So I think it was just sort of an excuse for A, why he lost, and B, why he decided to now say he's going to fight again. Well, come up to April 22nd, and here we come to the rematch between Austin McBroom and Aneson Gib in London. Well, it only lasted 3 rounds, and during the fight leading up to the 3rd round, you could see that Austin looked exhausted. He looked like he really wasn't in condition to be fighting. And even though he made videos showing himself in Dubai, training like Rocky and playing patty cake with his trainer,
that weight on the back. There you go. Every day, got something to prove every day.
And talking about how he was eating healthy and doing all this other stuff. And yet in the 3rd round, at one point, it looks like Austin and Aneson Gib are having sort of a love fest and a hug fest. Well, at one point, you see Gib sort of push Austin away because ankle, but he was sort of limping around. So I had to ask of course, I have to be cynical and ask myself, did he really break his ankle, or did he just sprain his ankle, twist his ankle? You know, because with Austin, you never know what the real story is. And I'm sure that breaking your ankle is a better way to save face from losing than saying, oh, I twisted my ankle and I basically had to give up the fight. So tell me what you guys think down in the comments. You think he's going to stop now, finally, after this 2nd loss? Because he's now 2-0 in his professional boxing career. So is he going to hang up his gloves for good finally and get back to just focusing on the videos? Is he going to not be able to take this loss, like he couldn't take the last loss apparently, and decide, oh, I'm going to do it again? And how is it going to go down? Is he going to have a Social Gloves 3? And will he get professional management this time? Or will he fight in somebody else's event, which is probably the most likely scenario if he keeps going. But if I were him, I think he's kind of humiliated himself enough. He should probably stop. But let me know what you think down in the comments. So I want to thank Savannah S. for sending us some Cat's Pride litter from the Amazon wishlist for the cats, and that's down in the description. Thank you so much, Savannah. We really, really, really appreciate it. Now, if you guys would like to send the cat something from their wish list, it's linked down below in the description. We will give you a shout out for sure. We appreciate your generosity. You guys are absolutely the best bunch of people who watch us and support us. And I want to thank all of our channel members and our Patreon patrons. You guys, your support helps us take care of these cats, these beautiful cats, and also helped me give Eugenie the best care possible up to the end. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, so stay tuned. But all of your support is very important to us. Thank you so much. We really love you guys. Now, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you right now, Genie's story, what happened with her, and why the end had to come. Look at this beautiful girl. Sybil is so happy and content today because on Friday afternoon, we went to the vet and she got another steroid injection for her mouth, but they also gave her a little painkiller, and it's sort of a long-lasting painkiller. So she's been incredibly friendly and lovable ever since that. And I try not to do it very often because I don't think it's good for them, but I can always tell when she sort of needs it. So this time I had them give her a little bit, but she's doing great. She's eating a lot. They said she gained a few ounces, so that's really good. Let's talk about my poor little Eugenie. Eugenie, before I tell you what led up to the end, let me just tell you a little bit about her beginning. So a lot of you may know the story already, but I'll tell you guys briefly one more time what happened with Eugenie. Is a lot of the cats I've adopted, and I do have 14 left now, after Eugenie's passing, are older cats, and they come from the streets of New York, and they all come from what's sort of unkindly known as the death list in New York. And it's sort of like a list of the cats that are scheduled to be euthanized either that day or within the next couple of days. And I've had several cases where I was asked in emotional pleas by some groups that I'm a follower of and supporter of to take certain cats who there was absolutely no rescue that would take them, no person that would take them, and they literally were scheduled to be put to sleep. And Eugenie was one of those cats. She was in probably the worst condition of any cat I've ever adopted. She had been living on the streets of New York. She was filthy. She was emaciated, and I'll put a picture up here of what she looked like. It's terrible. She was so skinny, and I took her and saved her literally the day they were going to put her to sleep. And I brought her immediately to my vet, because that's what I do first thing. I always let my vet know when I'm going to get a new cat, and I bring them right in. And he's really good about making time for me, because I'm probably his best customer. But he did blood work on her, and they have a lab equipment in their office. They're pretty advanced, and they were able to run some preliminary blood work. And the two doctors were working that evening, and the younger doctor was screaming at me because her red blood cell count was so low. They both said to me that they thought she would drop dead any second. That's how bad it was. And they were saying to me, why are you taking a sick cat? Why are they letting you? We should give them a call and tell them not to send you a sick cat. And I said, listen to me. Okay. And at this point, they had me crying because I felt so bad, because I'd taken this cat because I was asked at the last minute and I thought I was doing a good thing. And so I got really upset. And I said, listen, I knew she was sick when I got her. I had seen preliminary medical results that they post when you're agreeing to take one of these cats. I said, I knew she was sick. So don't yell at me. I knew it, and I decided to give her a chance. So I said, well, I'm going to take her home, and let's see how it goes. Well, I had a cat who was very, very, very old. She was only with me 8 months. That's how old she was, and she died of natural causes. But she was severely anemic, so I was paying like $200 a month to get this human leukemia hormone that they give human patients with leukemia. And what it does is it stimulates the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. She was a great cranky cat, and my doctor said the most difficult cat he's ever seen. But she was sweet. She just was really cranky. And we did bond, and at the end, it was very emotional. But she passed of natural causes. Anyways, so I had some of this hormone left over. It was in my fridge because you have to keep it refrigerated. And I said, well, Eugenie has severe anemia, and probably because she's been living on the street, she's probably had fleas, because fleas will do that sometimes to cats that live out on the street. And I said, well, I can't lose. They said she's going to die. I'm going to give her some of this hormone. So I gave her the same dose of hormone. And it was like twice a week you had to give it. So I did it for like 2 weeks, and she was eating and everything. And I noticed that she seemed to be doing better. And so after a couple weeks, I brought her back, and the doctor ran blood results, and he was shocked because all of her blood results came back as normal. So this cat literally miraculously, thanks to this hormone, started producing her own red blood cells. I was giving her supplements, I was giving her probiotics, and I was making sure she ate as much as she wanted. And in 3 months, she gained 6 pounds. That's how underweight she was, and got to a healthy weight and was totally healthy. And I said to my doctor, don't ever, ever lecture me about taking a cat. I've had cats my whole life. I know a lot about cats. I'm not a doctor. I'm a lawyer, but I do a lot of research. I read a lot of papers from like Cornell and Tufts veterinary schools about these different conditions some of my cats have had. And I always read up, and there's been several times where I've told the doctor against his will that I wanted him to try a certain treatment, and it's been successful. So anyways, the long story short is that never, ever give up. Okay. And Eugenie, during this almost 6 years I had her, she developed glaucoma because she's probably was older than we thought. And she did go blind because of it. Unfortunately, there's nothing they could do for glaucoma. I did give her medication every night in her eyes to relieve the pressure, so it didn't, her eyes didn't hurt. But she was totally blind, but she was very affectionate and very lovable. And she developed congestive heart failure a little over a year ago. And at that point, the doctor, when he did x-rays and they did like an ultrasound and stuff, he said that, this is the beginning of the end. Cats usually only live 2 or 3 months when they develop this, blah, blah, blah. So I had gone online and read some papers, and I read about this study where cats with congestive heart failure were given these 2 drugs, and that the 2 drugs seemed to help them stabilize. So I said, please, 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 can we try it? And sure enough, we tried it. She lived for over a year more, and my doctor, when I just brought her in actually before she went downhill this past weekend. I had brought her in for a checkup a few weeks ago, and my doctor was shocked because he said, I can't believe she's still alive. He said her heart sounds like sneakers in a dryer. You know, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's instead of a regular heartbeat. He said, I'm shocked that she's still alive. So, you know, Genie was a fighter. She exhausted all 9 of her lives. And unfortunately, last weekend, she just started crashing. And, you know, by the time Monday morning came around, she couldn't even drink water on her own anymore. And I said, this is the end. So I called my doctor, and they made time for me that afternoon. I brought her in, and we had to put her to sleep. But it was the right thing to do. I could tell she was in pain because she was sleeping with me, and occasionally she would cry out, and I was feeding her water and food with a syringe, and keeping her on a puppy pad. But she was a great cat. I loved her. I thank you guys so much for your support, your kind words. I thank all of you who support the channel in various ways. It means so much. It helps me take care of these guys and give them proper care, and I really appreciate it. We love all of you guys. So R.I.P. Genie, I love you, and you guys take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.
Pretty please. Subscribe, like, and hit the bell. I get a treat for every new sub. Thank you.